Hey there, my name is Shane Craddock, and this is the Inner Edge podcast, where I share a different take on how to lead and live a sustainable, high-performance life. Over the course of different episodes, I'm going to challenge the belief that tension, stress, and struggle are essential to success and creativity. My experience is that there's an easier way, there's a better way, and indeed there's an essential way that we need to explore for the times that we live in. So let's go ahead, let's jump in and explore. Hi there, welcome to today's episode, which is when do you get your best business ideas? And I suppose every week I'm always thinking or asking myself, what'll I talk about this week on this podcast? And there's always a few different ideas will come, but then one struck me because it was stronger than the others because I realized I was doing a talk recently in an event called the All Ireland Entrepreneur Summit in Dublin at Croke Park, which is the national stadium really for Irish sport in Ireland. It's based in Dublin. Anyway, I was speaking there and you prepare for a talk. This is how I do it. I prepare for a talk. And then when I do the talk, I kind of just pretty much throw everything out the window and I go with the preparation, but also whatever comes in that moment. So very often I don't always say things that maybe I'd planned to say. It's not like I know my key points and I'll always get to those. But anyway, one of the things that I forgot to do, or just didn't seem to be the right time to do it at this talk was I was going to ask a question, which I didn't ask. And it's a bit like doing an interview. And then afterwards you realize, oh yeah, I never said this, I never said that. And to me, that's just the way it is. But the question that I forgot to ask was, when do you get your best business ideas? Now, for most people, when I ask that question, they'll come back with a quick answer. And it's a simple question. I'll get into some of the answers now in a second. But the answers to me reveal a lot about how we work as humans and how our minds work. But also, I think it points to an opportunity about how we can harness for more creativity, more breakthrough ideas, more solutions, and more innovation in your business and in your life. And also, I think it actually challenges what does work really mean? Because what I'm going to talk about a little bit today is, from my experience, and the research backs it up, is that your best ideas come when your mind is relaxed. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be on holidays or lying in a hammock. I don't mean that kind of level of relaxation. Now, the ideas might come, by the way, in that moment when you're doing something like that. They often do on holidays. It's one of the reasons why I encourage my clients to make sure they take holidays, because you make more money on holidays. Why? Because you get these kind of breakthrough ideas that make you money when you are on holidays, like proper off. But you can also get these ideas once you understand how to leverage the dynamics of it. So, common situations, which maybe as you're listening, you're probably thinking, well, when do I get my best ideas? Some of the common ones you might hear will be when I'm in the shower. So the relaxing environment there, absence of distractions, enjoying cold or hot water, and get those ideas. A lot of people during exercise, that can happen to me when I'm in the gym. Some people maybe when they're running or if they're cycling or swimming. Sometimes maybe if you're walking to work, walking back from work, or you're commuting, like routine activity, routine travel can often trigger creative ideas. Sometimes just before sleep or just on waking, or sometimes even waking up in the middle of the night. Sometimes the transition between sleep and wakefulness can be a time of heightened opportunity for these ideas. Going back to holidays as well, I remember years ago, before I really got into the mental side of things, the inner world, I remember chatting with a colleague in Pepsi Cola in Cork, where I used to work, Pepsi Cola International. And I remember him saying to me, God, yeah, the best code, this was a technical IT guy, brilliant guy. He said, the best coding idea I ever got was when I was by the pool on holidays. And I said, it was so good, I just had to take out my laptop and start working on it. So again, what's the common thread? And there is a common thread here with these moments. And the common thread is that the mind relaxes and it opens, and it's not necessarily focused on your work or a specific task. It's kind of gone into what I would call free flow mode. If you're looking at a lot of the research around this, they would say, generally when the mind, that you break your connection with the underlying patterns of thought. So we can kind of get, without realizing it, stuck on a loop, especially in business, but actually just as a human with problems, you're stewing on things, looping on things. once you can break that connection, and very often those things can do the same thing. At that talk, actually, um, remember saying to somebody afterwards, and they were saying, yeah, well, vacuuming for me, or ironing, or cutting the grass. Again, they're kind of like repetitive activities. Being in nature is a great one, actually, as well. That's why I love hiking, or even, playing golf. Now, science, as I'll often say, only uncovers what's already there, right? Now, for a lot of people, it doesn't exist unless science proves it, but a lot of things exist without science seeing it yet. But in recent neuroscience, the research has identified what they're calling DMN, default mode network, which is kind of like that this mode network, the DMN, becomes active during what they would say is a restful state. So things like daydreaming or mind wandering or just moving into that free flow mode. And that's where you generate these novel ideas, these breakthrough ideas. And so once you understand the dynamics of how it works, you can leverage it then. And that's what I find fascinating, because for most people, particularly in business, they will work with this hustle culture, not realizing that actually the way that they're working, which is linked to the way that they're thinking, how they see work, their philosophy of work and business, is actually killing their ability to get these breakthrough ideas, these breakthrough solutions, this extra clarity. But so many stories for myself and with clients over the years, I've written about them as well in my book, The Inner CEO, just with clients who would have been struggling. And then they might come on, I say, one of my retreats is called Thrive. We run it usually once a year. And a couple times that's happened where clients have said, I'm not going to go. And then they come, and then maybe halfway through or afterwards, because their mind is relaxed away from their day-to-day problems, they're going to kind of gone into this neutral mode in their mind. They get the breakthrough idea. And that's one of the reasons why I'll often take clients out for a walk or a hike as a group or individually, because it just allows their mind to move into a different gear. Now, one of the analogies that I've spoken about in my podcast many times, and I've written about it in more detail in my book as well, is think of your mind like a snow globe, that when you shake it, which is really, you're stressed or you're overthinking or just really busy-minded, it's very hard to see clearly. That's the snow. That's your thought. But when you let it settle, clarity emerges. Now, you can't think your way to settling. You actually have to learn how to settle your mind for you. And also create opportunities during the day just to say, okay, actually, I know even one client, when I told him we were talking about this before years ago, he decided he was going to, believe it or not, build a shower in his business place so that he could often go off and have a shower. And he was convinced, and it seemed to work. They did often get ideas. So when you can find ways to allow your mind to rest, and even to consider that for most people during the day, your mind isn't at rest, it's too active. And that's going to happen like a snow globe. It'll get shaken or shook, whatever the word is, shaken. But when your mind rests, then you can bring insights, maybe to where you're trying to get to goals, to solving problems. It's incredibly powerful. But what I love about it is that once you get a feel for it, you can bring it in at any time. And it's incredibly powerful as a human. And we all have it. We all have it. You don't necessarily need to learn anything, really. It's more about, in a way, seeing that what's blocking it is just being caught up in your thinking. So a few questions for you. Like, when do you notice that your most creative or breakthrough ideas, thoughts, when do they emerge? When do they come? What is it for you? And during your week, are you allowing yourself enough downtime for these eureka moments, aha moments to occur, what I call mind shifts? And how could you bring more of these moments or opportunities to relax your mind into your day? Like, what can you do? So maybe as a challenge for this next week, for this coming week, maybe deliberately plan in short periods of unstructured time, space. It could simply be going for a short walk without your phone. Maybe in the evening time, you could, I don't know, have a shower, have a bath, or maybe you just sit quietly, observe, meditate if you feel like it. But what I would encourage you to do is, have a notebook handy to jot down any ideas. Always have it maybe in your car, your bag, or else have a special place on your phone where you can actually put the ideas when they come through, because they always do come through. for most people, they will go, yeah, well, I do got ideas when I do this and when I do that. And so why don't you do more of that? Actually, I don't know. I guess because I let myself get too busy. Like, my guess is you won't get your best ideas looking at a screen. It just doesn't happen. And most people then, especially in the business context, they'll say everything, like all these different places that they will get ideas, but very rarely, not exclusive, but very rarely will they ever say when I'm doing work. Very rarely will they ever say it, which raises the question, what is work? Because if you're getting your best business ideas or breakthrough ideas when you're not actually working per se, surely that raises a big question, not just for you as a leader, but also for people working around you. Because most people, in my experience, are too much in hustle, too much busy-minded, and they're blocking this potential for delivering breakthrough ideas on multiple levels, ideas that will improve your effectiveness, your efficiency, new opportunities. And actually, it's a much more enjoyable way to live as well. It's less pressurized. Because ultimately, we're all paid to get results, not to be busy. But that's not the way most people work. Most people, if you look at them, they just seem to be busy-minded all the time. So to close out, what I'll say is, I'm going to put out that your next big solution, your next big idea will probably come when you're not pushing for it, but when you give your mind the space to be free and to gently wander away from your habitual thinking. That's it for this week. Ciao for now.